Welcome back, everyone. It's time to talk about the talk. Many parents might feel a bit anxious about talking to their kids about the birds and the bees, but lucky for us, here to help with when and how to go about the sex talk with your kids is Dr. Jess O'Reilly. We're in good hands.
We are in good hands.
We're in good hands.
Yeah.
So, Jess, at what age do you have the talk with your kids?
Well, you know, it's not the talk, it's an ongoing talk. And I know you know that because you're already doing this. I always say right away, from the moment they're born, you are using the appropriate terminology, for example. Like, I don't know, did you grow up with that?
I did not grow up saying that's a penis and that's a vagina, that's for sure.
No, and no vulva.
Vulva. There was no vulva at all.
Well,
vulva just came into being like maybe 10 years ago.
2 minutes ago.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
God forbid we learn about the clitoris, but that's another conversation. For me growing up, my family said it was called the punji. Did you know that word?
The little punji. No, didn't have the punji.
They said it was
it's
Jamaican,
cute.
so is it a lie, maybe?
It might be. Maybe it's
Chinese
Jamaican. It might be, but it wasn't in our home. It wasn't a punji, and I can't even remember what. I mean, my dad, the words would never even leave his lips. But for my mom, I don't know what she used to call it, but it was always cutesy little names.
Right. So we could start just with the practice, right?
Yes.
Of saying the words while you're cleaning them, letting them know what you're doing. And it's actually much easier to do with a newborn than with a 10-year-old. And I think, and then the next piece is the transferable skills that starts right away. People think sex ed is about sex. It's not about sex. It's about emotional literacy. It's about teaching young toddlers to be, as soon as they're talking, to be able to say, that doesn't feel good for me, or when that happens, I feel sad, because those are transferable skills that are going to, you know, blossom and grow once they get into intimate relationships.
Oh, I love that. It's about the emotion behind the sex as well. So
absolutely.
At some point, they're going to look at you and say, like, where do babies come from?
Yeah.
What do you do with that? What's age appropriate? How do you deal with it?
Yeah, so whenever they ask, oftentimes it's when they're like 2.5, 3.5, or there's a pregnant person around you or in the family. What they're trying to do is make sense of where they either came from or whether or not they were a baby. And so when they're really, really young like that, you can explain, okay, there's two parts to make a baby. There's a sperm and an egg, and they come together and they grow, sort of like a seed can grow into a tree or into a fruit or something like that. And then as they get older, they can start to understand that, in fact, the penis and the vagina can fit together like a puzzle. That's not the only way to make a baby, but that's a common way to make a baby. You know, maybe when they're 7 or 8. And you, of course, know your kids best. Like, you know, and you have 2 kids, so you know that.
14 and 12.
Right, and they were very different when they were each 7.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. They're totally different children. I mean, the stuff that comes out of their mouths is interesting. They're the kind of kids that are always like, Mom, enough. Like, I talk about it too much, but I want to make sure that the door's always open so they can come to me and talk about whatever.
That's what you want to be.
That's what you want. Like, so if they bring it up or if something happens, they know that they can come to me because I'm the one that's over the top always talking about it, right?
And that's what you're trying to do is, you know, as they get older, you start to audition to be their person. When they're little, they automatically come to you. But as they get older, there are so many other sources, so you want to be that person.
I remember one day sitting there washing the dishes, and both of them were in front of me at the breakfast bar, and I'm washing the dishes, and they're like, oh yeah, remember we wanted to ask Mommy that word. And then one of them said, yeah. I go, which word? And they're like, master. And then I'm like, where are we going? Where are we going with this? I'm washing dishes, and the other one goes, Bation, masturbation. And I was like, where's Daddy? Where's Daddy?
You're like, I'll do all the dishes, I'll do the dirty pots, but you explain the 4-syllable word. But that's a common question as well.
Yeah.
They're going to hear words. They're also perhaps going to explore their own bodies. And the messaging we want to teach them is that there's no shame, that it's something you do in private. And I know that's a really hard thing for a lot of people, but we also have to remember that when young people touch them, when, you know, kids touch themselves, it's not necessarily in an erotic way, not necessarily in a sexual way. It can be in a soothing way.
Absolutely.
And we need to see our full bodies as, you know, a part of ourselves and feel attached and proud of our bodies.
Yes, we don't need any of that shame. So I want to talk about porn because I feel like we should. It's everywhere. It's prevalent. When do you start talking to your kids about that? How do you address it?
You know, as soon as they are unsupervised online, they run the risk of running into material that they didn't even mean to search for, right? They could search for, you know, a term that seems rather innocuous, but then this stuff comes up. So you want to be telling them, listen, there's stuff online that is for adults. You might see people naked, or you might see people kissing. And if you do see that, it's not for you, it's for adults. You're going to close out that tab and come get me, and we can have a conversation. Now, as they get older, like the teens, you're not going to be able to control everything they do. We know that. And so we have a responsibility, knowing that in the absence of comprehensive sex education, the #1 source of where people are learning about sex is porn, which is so unfortunate because it's not made with education in mind. We have a responsibility to teach young people that, you know, that's actually not what sex looks like. It's more relational, more emotional. There's a lot more to it than just somebody delivers a pizza and all of a sudden they're doing stuff.
And the stuff that they're doing, it's like, it is the performance of sex. And so that's what we've talked about, you know, just like I work in a performance industry.
Yes.
So you have to look at the performance versus the reality and really understand, have that literacy, like that media literacy to understand what you're actually taking in, because it can be super harmful.
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
Okay, what about people who are afraid talking to about sex to their kids will encourage their teens to go and have it? Like, go on and have it since we showed you what a vulva is.
Well, I'll teach you how to change a toilet and see if you're begging to change toilets tomorrow. Listen, the drive is there, and we just have a wealth of data showing that talking about sex does nothing to hasten the onset of sexual activity, but it does improve confidence, communication skills, and the likelihood of practicing safer sex.
Finally, sexting. Should we be talking about this?
Talk about it, but don't lecture. Of course, you're going to share your opinion, but find out how they feel about it, what they know about it, what are the potential consequences they see so they can come to their own conclusions. Because when we preach, they stop listening.
Absolutely, Dr. Jess. So good. Remember, get more of her brilliant insight and advice in her series, Asking for a Friend, that's exclusively on Cityline's YouTube channel. 4 amazing episodes on topics that are just too hot for daytime television. I absolutely love it, and I love Jess. Time for a break. We've got lots more coming up. Stay tuned. That was fantastic.